A worldwide alarm. Russia upping the ante in its attacks against Ukraine. What world leaders are saying about the invasion. We're following the latest on the coronavirus as well, including the state of Michigan's new report on racial disparities during the pandemic. And here's Paul.
Well, tell you what, Jason, we have a wild weekend ahead. It's going to be warmer, that's for sure, but we have a lot going on, including the potential for some high wind and power outages. I'll break it all down for you straight ahead.
Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News First at 4 starts now.
The Russian invasion now stretching into its second week with no end in sight. Ukraine's president now pleading for international help and asking NATO to declare a no-fly zone over his country. Kimberly joins us now with a look at what's latest in this conflict. Kim?
Hi, Jason. Good afternoon to you. The humanitarian crisis continues to grow along the Poland-Ukraine border as attacks by Russian troops have become more frequent and deadly. More than 1 million Ukrainians have fled the country just in the last week. Russian forces have taken control of a nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe, following a fire at the facility. The White House says there was no indication of elevated levels of radiation or leakage of radioactive material. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of intentionally firing at the plant. Meanwhile, the Secretary General of NATO reiterated today the alliance will not police a no-fly zone over Ukraine. Ukrainian leaders have called for such a no-fly zone to be enforced as the Ukrainians try to resist the incursion by Russian forces. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke today after meeting with world leaders in Brussels.
An unprecedented number of international businesses, associations, cultural institutions that have cut ties with Russia, causing the Russian economy to go into free fall, motivating tens of thousands of Russians to protest and countless more to leave the country, and increasingly turning Russia into a pariah state. If that was President Putin's plan, well, you can say it's working. Russia has never been so isolated. We have never been more united.
Adding to Russia's growing isolation during the invasion, the country has blocked access to Facebook. They claim the social media company had broken the country's rules by limiting online access to state-backed media. We'll continue to follow the latest developments in the newsroom, and we'll have an update coming up on the news at 5 and 6. Until then, Jason, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Kim. Sure. See you at 5. The war in Ukraine having more impact at the pump as well. AAA says gas prices in Michigan jumped another 8 cents since yesterday. The average right now is $3.82 a gallon. Yesterday's jump in the national average, by the way, ties for the 8th largest single-day rise ever. That's just one of many things we're following with the crisis in Ukraine. We have instant updates on the war 24/7 at clickondetroit.com. All right, let's check the forecast. And all kinds of stuff happening this weekend, Paul. But most importantly, are we going to be able to wash the car or not?
That's going to be the least of our worries, Jason. I mean, we have so much to talk about. Now, first of all, high wind watch has been issued by the National Weather Service from 4 a.m. until noon on Sunday, and we're talking about the potential for 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Now, we talked about that yesterday. This is no surprise, but that's not until Sunday. So until then, we're pretty quiet right now. You can see temperatures have made it, as expected, into the mid to upper 30s, even 41 over at Lansing. But most of us are in the mid to upper 30s right now, so it's not that bad of a day with those high, thin cirrus clouds. You can see those here on the visible satellite imagery, but you can also see how they're thickening and increasing to the west. So we're going to see that progress and continue as a trend throughout the night. So we'll wake up tomorrow and it's going to be cloudy, but no problems this evening. If you're heading to the Pistons game over at LCA, temperatures just dropping through the low 30s during the game. A dry game, no problems walking to or from the car, but there is a lot to talk about coming up. We'll talk about some pretty massive temperature differences we're going to see across the area tomorrow, those strong wind gusts Sunday morning, and then the temperature crash Sunday afternoon. We'll see in a few minutes, Jason. A lot to talk about.
All right, yeah, including what to do if you have a very dirty car. I hope we're going to get that. We're coming back to that, Paul. We're coming back. Now to the coronavirus. As the latest trends continue to move in the right direction, the state reporting 1,842 cases over the last 2 days, an average of 921 a day. 68 deaths were also reported, including 54 of those from a vital records review. The 7-day moving average for the daily cases sits at 830. Hospitalizations from the virus also decreasing over the last few weeks, now down to the lowest total since last summer. A new report by the state shows racial disparities in COVID-19 cases and deaths have been reduced over the last 2 years. Now, to keep that going, a Michigan task force has released a number of new recommendations. Continued funding to neighborhood vaccination and testing sites is one of them. Also, improving racial data collection and greater access to health care and health insurance.
With these recommendations, we're taking another step towards a more equitable, more just, more safe, and more responsive Michigan for everyone, where no family and no community has to continue to bear the burden of generations of inequities alone.
We need to prioritize our most vulnerable communities and make sure they have ready access to tools when they do become available.
Many of the findings from the task force's study are being implemented across the country now to help other communities. An orange barrel alert you should know about before you hop in the car. Starting tonight at 11, both directions of I-75 between I-696 all the way to Square Lake Road. That's going to close for the weekend. 13 Mile Road will also close between Stevenson Highway and Agnello Drive. To get around easier, you can always use Woodward as a detour. MDOT does expect the freeway to be back open in time for the Monday morning commute. No holdups at the former Cobo Hall this weekend because it's Autorama. Back after a 2-year hiatus, the cool and classic cars fully on display, and keep an eye out for Sting, one of the celebrities that's going to be there, the wrestler, not the singer. It runs through Sunday. You can get tickets at the door for $25. Kids 5 and under get in free, and we'll probably get in some of those cars. Michigan native and U.S. veteran Melissa Siebert was diagnosed with ALS early February. The disease progresses quickly, so she made a bucket list, and she's already raised $8,600 to make those adventures happen. Megan Woods is following her journey that is focused a lot on things to do here in Detroit. Megan?
Yeah, so she moved away, but her heart is still here. She was born in Detroit, raised in St. Clair Shores, so a trip to right here, Comerica Park, to see the Tigers, as well as a visit to Belle Isle, are all on that bucket list. But this isn't just about those adventures. It's about raising money for research for anyone else who's diagnosed with ALS.
To hear that when you're 41 years old is crushing.
Melissa Siebert said it was an emotional moment, not just for her.
The neurologist even cried, telling me, because I was the 5th person that he had diagnosed in 10 days.
Melissa served in Afghanistan and went to a VA hospital in Virginia where she lives. So those 4 other patients were veterans too. Dr. Eva Feldman of University of Michigan is a professor of neurology and director of ALS Center of Excellence, and said it's the reality of the disease.
The average risk is somewhere between 2- and 3-fold higher if you have served in the military versus if you have not served in the military in developing ALS.
Studies have been done as to why.
They are exposed to pollutants, to air pollution, to pesticides, more than an individual who's not necessarily in the military. And we believe that is strongly driving ALS risk.
But for Melissa, knowing other veterans are battling this same disease didn't make sharing her diagnosis with her wife, Kristen, any easier.
We have 2 young children. We have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. It's devastating.
While it feels like the odds are against them, they have hope.
And the prognosis for most people with ALS is like 3 to 5 years. But there's like a 10% of people that make it past 10 years.
In the meantime, they want to make as many memories as possible. Melissa's bucket list has the usual Disney trip, but then there's some hometown favorites.
So I've never been to a major league game, and I've said, why not make it the Tigers? I've never been to a game at the Big House. I want to take our girls to Belle Isle. I used to play at Belle Isle all the time when I was a little kid.
Her GoFundMe is at more than $8,600, and she wants to use that money for more than just her bucket list, but for research.
There is no cure, but they're getting close. They're so close to something that maybe can't cure it, but can stop it right where it is.
Dr. Feldman says that the state of Michigan has one of the highest prevalences of ALS in the country. And as for Melissa, she's now considered 100% disabled. And if you want to help her out and help raise money for research, we'll have that link on clickondetroit.com. Live in Detroit, I'm Megan Woods, Local 4.
Yeah, and Megan, anyone who's had a loved one who's had ALS knows every single dollar matters and every breakthrough will change so many lives. Hopefully Melissa's too. Thanks, Megan.